Call to order the May 2021 Public Works and Capital Improvements Committee to order. All three members of the committee, Alderwoman Stacy Gould, Alderman Darrell Wilson, and Alderman Joe DeLucia, all present, as is the Director of Public Works and the City Engineer, and our newly minted recording secretary. Welcome, everyone. It's 4:01 p.m. Okay, so item 2 on our agenda: approval of minutes. Everybody got the draft minutes in their email. Motion to adopt by Darrell Wilson.
I'll second.
Seconded by Stacy Gould. Are any additions, corrections, other comments under discussion on the minutes? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor in adopting the minutes? Alderman Wilson votes yes.
Aye.
Alderwoman Gould votes yes. The chair votes yes. It's unanimous. Thank you. Item 3 on our agenda today, citizen comment. We don't have any citizens present in the meeting, but we'll call for, is there any citizens that would like to make a comment to the committee today? Are there any citizens that would like to make a comment to the committee today? Third and final time, are there any citizens that would like to make a comment to the committee today? Hearing none, call citizen comment as closed. Moving on to old business, item A. Public Works project updates. Take it away, Mr. McLaughlin.
You're muted.
Yeah, I know.
Caught it. He caught it.
You have to find get the cursor over there. So the Sherman Street Bridge, yeah, the 90% were submitted. The cost estimate actually came down slightly in this latest, the 90% plans. It's down to just under 12 million. We expect to go out to bid in the fall for construction next spring. To be moving on schedule. The annual paving started up. They did a couple streets. They did Wilderness Drive and Curtis Street, and now they'll be starting up on in Norwich Town, up on the hill there off of Browning Road. Those streets, the side streets, the Blueberry Lane, and all those streets shortly. The Franklin Square Roundabout, today was actually their notice to proceed date. I don't know. They were going to start mobilizing. I think NPU is still kind of wrapping things up out there with the work that they were doing. Also, the Boswell Avenue Sidewalk project started up the week before last, and that's moving right along. That's sidewalk replacement from Oak Street up to Roth Street along that east side. So they were in pretty bad shape there. It's community development block grant funds are paying for it. And you know, that work is underway now. It should be completed in another month, basically. New London Turnpike, that Complete Streets project, we shortlisted 5 firms for interviews, and we're going to be interviewing them next week. The selection committee is myself and Brian and Dan Deniska. The Granite Mill building is slowly, you know, we're still awaiting on. The contractor submitted the stabilization plans, but we're still reviewing those now. We were trying to get the design calculations. That's what the latest holdup was. We want to be able to review those for the stabilization work, the steel. There's a sidewalk. We have another sidewalk project, ramps over on North Main Street on all those connecting streets that we paved last year. We we opened bids on that recently. And, that'll be starting up. Clover Construction, who's done other sidewalk work for the city, was the low bidder, so that was good news. They do good work. Little Plains Park fence is, the designer is working on that. I actually have a meeting with the Historic District Commission to Wednesday evening to for a condition of appropriateness, or I think that's what they call it, just to run the plans by them. I don't expect any issues since we're basically replacing it. We're doing repair or storing it, not we're not making changes to the looks of it or anything. And 270 West Thames Street has been demolished. That work is completed. And then I guess since the Laurel Hill Fire Department retaining wall, I guess they're going to do another little phase of that. And that was, the city manager told us to go ahead with that. So I don't know, Brian, if we have I don't know if he's got a start date for that, but he's.
Yeah, I think he's looking at getting started sometime later this week or next week. It's a small section of wall they want to add on and taper it down towards the edge of the road, just basically to cover up the exposed ledge that's there. And I was told by the guys out there that once the wall's in place, they plan on doing some plantings just to, make it look better, more finished, I guess, along that rock face. So.
Okay, so that's pretty much it for project updates, I think, unless there's some questions on something else too.
I don't have any questions. Darrell, Stacy?
I'm all set with questions.
No questions.
Okay. Thank you for that. Moving on to item B, property disposition.
So we have a relatively new property, 16 Robbins Court off of Cliff Street. It backs up to the Oak Street Cemetery. And we took possession of that a few weeks ago. There is nobody currently living in it, but there's some question about, there's a lot of possessions left behind. And we were gonna just go in and clean them out and put them in a dumpster, but Mike Driscoll is telling me he's checking into making sure that we won't be violating anything if we, to get rid of those materials that are inside the house. That's the only holdup with moving that one on for sale, the possessions that are in it.
Pat, on the possessions, is it too much for Public Works to do? Do we need to hire? I know that Mel did it before, clean outs for us. Are we in that circumstance with this one?
No, we think we can do it. I mean, it's not, yeah, it's doable. It's just a matter of getting the okay to do it. We were actually gonna do it this week. It'd probably take a couple days. It might take a couple dumpsters because there is a lot of stuff, but we just put some men in it and we can do it.
Okay, thank you.
It's a matter of when we, getting like approval and okay to do it, to make sure we're not, somebody's going to come back and have some claim to it. That's in Mike Driscoll's court. Other than that, for the properties, once that's cleaned out, Deanna and I both think that it should be put to sale listed with our real estate agent. It would lend itself to a relatively quick sale, I would think, once it's emptied out.
Okay.
I think it's a good candidate to try to sell once we get it okay to get it cleaned out.
So and this is a property that's already had its disposition and we demoed the building, the Fairmont Street property. You remember I reached out to you about that retaining wall and the neighboring property. And it goes beyond that. I had a conversation with the fire chief, and they have the fire department and the members of the fire department have some ideas about what that property might be able to be used for to benefit the city, and plus the ongoing concern of that retaining wall and the neighboring property. So two things: anything on the retaining wall, any progress on that, on dealing with the retaining wall, and B, second question is, could you reach out to the fire chief and just start brainstorming what we might be able to do with that property if we're going to hang on to it?
Yes, and Brian, I don't know, you want to update them on we've been trying to get some prices on the wall repair.
Yeah, I think we're going to need the wall is pretty significant in height, and it's holding back quite a bit of earth right now. And I think in order to repair that, it could be a tear down and replace type thing, depending on how high we rebuild it and how much grading we do on the lot. So it'd probably be good to get together with the fire chief and get an idea of what exactly they're looking at as far as what they'd want to do with that area, and then figure out how to make that happen.
Yeah.
The wall there's nothing left worth keeping for what's out there right now. I think it would need to be replaced.
You were going to say?
Well, I think the fire chief, one of the short-term things he had mentioned was a community garden or something, but eventually we want to put some parking there. And I thought if we keep about 10 or so feet back from the wall, we can, I don't know if we got to replace the whole wall. We can probably do some repair work as long as we're not parking vehicles right up tight to it. But we need to get some prices on it.
Yeah, I think the idea was not for a community garden, but for the firefighters to do their own little farm to table initiative right there on that lot, which, obviously raised beds and it's hardly a farm, but still nonetheless, they, can grow some stuff that's actually going to feed the firefighters, right? So I thought that was a great idea. It was something that, that they're willing to take on. So maybe
there's definitely enough area out there where they could incorporate something like that and maybe even grab extra parking spaces at the same time. So
right,
exactly. Depends on what balance they'd want of those two things.
Yep. True, and then there's a training component. It's like they talked about, having some training structures there that all the departments could use, as the third component. To putting that lot to its highest and best use. So
it may be worth putting together a site plan to incorporate all of these things along with the rebuilding or replacement of the wall.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I don't, we'll hear later tonight what some of the city managers' plans are for the American Rescue Plan money. But again, this would be kind of high impact, really not huge expense, millions of dollars, but some money that maybe, that doesn't have to come out of capital budget, could come out of the American Rescue Plan dollars that provides the city with this, this three-way benefit of that site. I mean, what a great legacy for that site, for it to, to serve three purposes all at the same time and benefits, all the departments and so on. So I just ask you to get the conversations going with the chief. I don't have an agenda. I'm not going to I'm not pushing an action plan, but they have some ideas. I think that, staff should, just start the conversation, start talking about.
The recovery money sounds like a good thought too. I hadn't really thought about that there, but maybe because it's a fire, if it was some type of fire training thing, maybe it would be eligible for that.
Yeah, that would be great. Anything else on a property disposition, members? No? Okay, perfect. Thank you. And now item C, Public Works Vehicular Concerns. I sent out an email, said I had two. I think we all got the same email from a resident that lives on Grant Court talking about signage. You know, I haven't had a chance to go by there yet to see what the signage is like. But if, you know, Pat, if you could reach out to the police chief and then, you know,
I actually
follow up on.
I drove around it this morning and it was, yeah, there's already a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit sign. And right underneath that, it says slow children on both entrances. As you come into both ends of Grant Court, the signs are already there. It's just a matter of, and I think that, I don't think they get too many cars going 40 miles an hour on Grant Court. You know, I think that might have been an anomaly.
Well, you know, and it's U-shaped, right? You know, so I would say that if somebody's driving a little bit fast in there, it's either because they went in there by mistake or they're coming or going, right? Either as a guest or a resident, a little bit too fast. But nonetheless, I'm happy to hear that there are signs in there. I'm not surprised though to hear that there are, but
Yeah, there are signs there, and I think if speeding were a problem, Lieutenant Perry, who lives on Grant Court,
yeah,
would be making it a priority. He has two sons who I'm sure play in the yard. I'm sure he would be making it a priority to slow down speeders over there.
right. Absolutely, yeah.
And it is preferential if kids play in the yards and not in the streets too.
Yeah. So, you know, so again, I'm glad to hear that the signs are there. Again, not surprised to hear that they are. So, okay. The other one that I had that I wanted to circle back around to, we talked about this, I don't know, maybe 2 months ago, is the north end of Central intersection of Central Avenue and North Main Street. I had a conversation with a couple of people, and one of the people said, well, why can't we put an island out there that would force the northbound traffic on Central Avenue to have to come to slow down and make almost like a right-hand turn, so that instead of coming up to a stop sign and continuing on straight, right, and having that hard 120-degree angle, look back over the right shoulder to look at North Main Street southbound, right, or not southbound, but in the south direction. Why not put an island there that forces people, that Central Avenue would then become a T intersection with North Main, so that you'd have to make that turn, stop, and then at that point you'd be 90 degrees to both directions, right? Before you either turned left to continue north or turned right to continue south on North Main Street.
Yeah. And
Did you get my email earlier, Joe?
Brian,
I got home just in time to start this meeting. I haven't checked my email today.
So
Okay.
that was the question I was going to ask, because I did have a chance to look at Brian's sketch. And I actually like the concept. It solves probably about 85 to 90% of the issue that we discussed 2 months ago with the accident portion, but also that look back piece in that intersection. The only question I have is talking to some of the individuals that park over near that restaurant and the several apartments, houses that are right there. The white line, of course, on the road that would be the line that they would park in is much narrow to the sidewalk. So that the sidewalk to that first line is very narrow. So if they park their car there, you know, the justification of someone hitting it, their car is in the road. So I don't know if there's if doing this shifting over the lines helps, but I think the other concern that they have which is the last piece related to solve it, is those individuals that would park on that side of North Main. Let's see. So near like where 11 and 12 are, I think it is. Down there, there's those apartments right there. Having enough parking space or knowing that the line is there to keep them their vehicles secure for parking purposes, I think is the only other concern. But I think this traffic pattern works.
Yeah, so that Brian's sketch doesn't affect anything on that east side of North Main.
So just looking at the aerials, which I didn't include in this sketch, but just right now looking at the aerial photos, there are cars that park where you're talking about on that side of the road. There's no white stripe on that side of the road. And I don't know if it's just a matter of getting, as part of this, or just in general, getting them to reapply the white stripe along that side of the road.
Correct.
And then that, every case you have that white stripe, it helps slow cars down just a little bit, no matter what. So.
Correct. So that's exactly what I'm talking about. If that's part of this overall plan, and re-adding the white stripe, because I know they did paving and some work over in that area. It might have been last year or the year before when they finished doing that other piece up the road there. So I think that's the only other piece, but I like this design. It solves pretty much the bigger issue of the accidents and the look back in the traffic.
Yeah, I like it very much. Yes, that's great.
So the next step would be to talk to the state about it too, since North Main Street's a state road.
Right. Yep.
So,
Yeah. So I guess my first question is, so what's the mechanism to make that happen? And then secondly, whatever that mechanism is, do you need a motion and a vote from us to do that? Or, Stacy, I would value your input on how we would, explore this, I guess is the.
Well, I think the first thing we have to do is find out if we can make these changes to North Main Street, if it is a state road. And then number two, what is the cost to change this pattern? Who's going to pay to make this happen?
Mm-hmm.
We don't.
Is this something that we will have to do once we get permission? Or is this something that the state would have to do?
Well, we could look for different funding sources. There might be some type of safety improvement grants or something that would be available. I think the first thing we would want to get is a state concurrence on it, and then start looking at funding source, cost, and then funding sources to meet that cost.
And Pat, how long do you think it would take the state to get back to us on this if they accept this design? Because I know they don't really move fast on a lot of things. Will it be in our lifetime, or do we have to leave a note for the next generation?
It could happen within a 2-year time frame, maybe.
Okay.
I think it may just boil down to how often you pester them and how many phone calls you make, and
look at the accident history there too. If the accident history is pretty significant, we started trying to look into that. I don't think we got final analysis yet, but if there is a good accident history there, then the state would move a little quicker on it too.
Okay, so do we have we reached out to Chief Daly to have him put?
I did, but it was kind of late in the process. Yeah, we'll get that. The ball will get rolling now.
Okay.
Okay, well, Brian, thank you for this. I like this as a great concept. Obviously, there's a lot more steps to the process, but I think you have to start with an idea, and I think that this is a really good one. So, let's let's run it up the flagpole, as they used to say in the 80s, right? And see who
Yep.
salutes it. Okay. All right. All right. Great work on that. Thank you very much. Does anybody have any other vehicular concerns for the committee?
So mine is really not necessarily a vehicular concern in the sense of a street or anything. This was a concern, and I want to say I sent a scanned copy of the letter to that I received.
Well, maybe we should hold that off to other business, Darrell, just so Sheila's on the call for the next item, I think.
Okay, yeah, I can do that. That's perfect.
Okay. Sounds like a plan. Thanks, Pat. Thank you, Darrell. Okay, so if there's nothing else on vehicular concerns, we can move on. Okay, I'll take that as a yes. All right, number 5, new business, the mural request for Market Street parking garage. And Sheila Hayes is here. She is the author of the letter that we received. And I'll open up the floor, Sheila, if you want to kind of give the on the record summary of the concept here and what you want to do.
Okay, so starting actually it's almost a year ago in May, as a result of some of the rallies and peaceful protests that were held in the area. And when I say area, from Norwich all the way down to New London, East Lyme, Old Lyme area. Several people who were very concerned, ministers, community people, civic people, young people, got together to form a couple of organizations. And one of the organizations that was formed is called Public Art for Racial Justice. And there's an interest, especially with our young people, to have to look at having a couple of sister murals. The first one is New London and Old Lyme, connecting those two cities, and then the second sister mural would be Norwich with East Lyme. And as a result of the work that we did with the David Ruggles Courtyard on the 150th anniversary of the Emancipation Proclamation, we learned that David Ruggles actually was born down in the Lyme area. I don't know whether it's Old Lyme, East Lyme, or Lyme, but in that general area. And he moved to Norwich and grew up in Norwich before moving to New York, where he was part of the Underground Railroad. He mentored Frederick Douglass, James Lindsay Smith, which is how James Lindsay Smith ended up in Norwich back then as a runaway slave. And so the two groups, East Lyme and Norwich, got together, and we are proposing in the committee, the Public Art for Racial Justice Education Committee, which I'm on the steering committee of, they have agreed to the concept, to the theme, that we would focus on tying East Lyme and Norwich together with a piece of public art, a mural specifically, tying in the Underground Railroad, the abolitionist movement, David Ruggles, and looking at notable people. The Norwich mural would have notable historical people from Norwich, and the East Lyme, we're looking at having historical notable figures or places or events in the East Lyme area. And that's how they would be complements. We would utilize this as an educational tool. We are involving East Lyme High School as well as Norwich Free Academy, as well as students, youth from the community all the way down to middle school. And hopefully we'll get Three Rivers Community College involved with some of the mural. And so it is really to start to link, make this a regional effort. We had started a regional effort several years ago when the Southeastern Coalition came to Norwich, but we never really got that off the ground. So this is a second attempt to really put the emphasis on the arts, have the city of Norwich be a part of it, and really make this part of a regional effort. That's my summary.
Okay, thank you for that. And so the proposal, I don't want to call it a proposal, but the concept is to put a mural across multiple floors of the Market Street side of the
No,
parking
just
garage?
one. Just
Just one,
one, because
okay.
we're gonna have, because we can't do with students, we can't do the scissor lift or the scaffolding. So,
Mhm.
and if you look at the first floor on the back side, so this is the back side facing Chelsea something attorneys. Who else is over there? Attorney, there's
Anderson's office is over
Anderson is all right.
Anderson, yeah, right.
It's
Yep.
So
Chelsea Harbor Drive.
right, it's the one facing Chelsea Harbor Drive.
Mhm.
So if you look at it, I didn't measure it, but I want to say it's probably a good 10 feet, at least 8 feet, probably 10 feet. So it's, and then the structure, I did take a photo of the wall. I don't know if it was included in your package, but the wall then sort of uh, goes down on a slope. So maybe
Yep.
it goes down to maybe about 4 or 5 feet.
Mhm.
So like I said, I didn't measure the exact, and we don't have an artistic drawing because the first phase is I have to get approval for the location, and then we'll go out for a call for artists, because we want to have a muralist, an artist who is versed as a muralist. And then the community would be the youth, I should say, the students are going to be involved with helping the artists understand what type of design that we would want, which I said to Pat, I would then send the design back through the committee for you to look at as we have the design, as the artist works on the design. And then it would be the artist painting it along with youth and young adults. And the total estimated cost of the project, and we're including everything, not just the creation of the mural and paying the artist, but doing the community painting part of it, and then an unveiling is estimated at $15,000. Norwich is part of the Sustainable CT. This project would fall under that. So we would be required to raise $7,500, and Sustainable CT would match it. And that's how we would come up with the 15,000.
And when you say raise 7,500, do you mean?
You have to get approval from Sustainable CT, and then they set you up with it's a crowdfunding, I think it's called. I'm not
Yeah, crowdfunding, yep.
crowdfunding. And there have been other communities who have done murals who have successfully used the crowdfunding. If you read the article about the Toni Morrison bench that's going out at the Prudence Crandall Museum, they're using this same process.
And does the city have to guarantee the 7,500 if crowdfunding doesn't cover it?
No.
So essentially, you just need permission from, I would imagine, the city council to apply a mural to a city-owned structure.
Well, based on what I read, we had to come in front of this committee first.
Well, yeah, there's a process.
This committee approves it, then it goes to the monument committee next. And then if the next step after that is to go in front of the city council, I believe those are the 3 steps.
Yeah, so, that's, and again, I won't worry about the semantics and so on and so forth, but no, normally stuff goes to the council, gets referred to the committees, research and do their thing, but certainly a grassroots idea like this can have its genesis in these committees. But you're right, it just goes through, just follows the same process. Ultimately, it's the council that says yes or, the entire council that says yes or no.
Correct.
Okay, again, looking for advice from either Pat or Stacy at this point, with just based on your experience. What is this committee's next step?
Well, let me jump in and say, I think we can give her I'm sorry, a tentative okay, but without seeing a design or the drawing, she can't have any kind of final approval until we see exactly what is going to be done there. And then the second question is going to be, how does your group, Public Art for Racial Justice, plan on preserving this mural, down the road? Because that's one of the caveats on, for the recommendation by the Plaque and Monument Committee, is that you have a plan to, 5 years from now, if it doesn't look so good, you're going to come back and you're going to whitewash it. Or 5 years from now, you're going to come back and you're going to repaint it. The problem has been, we want to have these murals, we want to have these things, and then down the road, it becomes the city's responsibility to maintain, refresh, redo, and the city doesn't have, funds to refresh, redo murals, et cetera, et cetera. So there'll need to be some sort of plan of attack on how you will, number one, put the paint on and then maintain it for years to come.
Right. So in the proposal, we did address the maintenance of the continuing maintenance of it. So a couple of things that will be done up front is that the original painting will also have to have a coat of what they call graffiti covering to it, and that's supposed to make it easier if for some reason it was marked up or somebody did something to it. You can go in and easily take that off as long as there's a graffiti covering on it, and then you reapply that covering again, is my understanding. The second part is that as part of the contract with the artist, and at this point, I don't know how many times we would request that the artist be available to come back to retouch up or correct any of the work. But we're looking at the life of the mural, I'm going to say at least for 10 years. And so there will be an inspection, and what they've said, we're also working with Connecticut Murals on this. I'm getting advice that for the first 3 to 4 years, the murals normally stay intact as long as you you put on a good coat of primer, you put on all the protective coating, and then the 5th year, you may have to make some touch-ups and some adjustments, and so it will be inspected. And then that will be part of, like I said, I don't know exactly whether it's 2 or 3 times we ask the artists themselves to come and actually retouch up their work. And then, if the day that that upon inspection, if it was to deteriorate, then yes, then it would be cleaned up, and probably removed permanently if it couldn't continue to be touched up and withstood the conditions. I'll put it that way. So there is a plan in place. The Norwich Branch NAACP is a part of this organization, as well as Wendy Berry of Southeastern Connecticut. So it's also organizations who are part of ensuring that we will monitor and continue to evaluate the condition of the mural And that's in the proposal. And money will be set aside for that. I think we setting aside initially $500, and then if the cost and everything goes up, additional money will be set aside, and that's part of the 15,000 to raise.
And what's your timeline for, do you think you're gonna need to raise this kind of money?
Well, my understanding is that if we get approval to move forward, let's see, this is May. I would hope that we could start raising the money in June and July. I think they give you a short time frame for crowdfunding. I haven't done one of those, but I want to say it looks like about 6 weeks for the crowdfunding that you raise the money. And then hopefully, and during that time, we could go out with the call for artists, work on the drawing, and then the goal would be to have this painted sometime in August, no later than September, so we could dedicate it during Connecticut Freedom Trails Month.
So if you're, I'm just trying to follow your timeline.
Right.
So the Plaque and Monument Committee would have to be in there somewhere to give their approval to your final design.
Okay.
They're not going to give a blanket approval to, okay, you're going to paint a mural. They're going to want to see exactly, you know, an artist's rendering of what you're going to put up there.
Okay.
So I don't want that to, I want that to be on your radar, so that you understand that the approval, any tentative approval that Public Works may give you, the Plaque and Monument Committee is going to want to see what this is supposed to look like.
Right. Right. And I'm assuming the same with the Public Works and Capital Improvements Committee is going to, but before we could go out for a call for artists, I guess we needed to receive some type of approval to move forward that we can, that the city, even if it's temporary, that would be the location that we would be painting, providing that we got all the approvals in all the other areas.
So basically an approval of the location that the Chelsea, that wall would be
Right.
okay to put a mural
They're
on.
there. Yes.
Well, I think Stacy said the right word. So there'll be a tentative approval of the concept and the location, pending submission of the actual artwork, right? And also the endorsement of the Monuments Committee with final approval by the City Council.
Awesome.
So is it okay if I make a motion?
Certainly, any member can make a motion anytime he likes.
So kind of to move this forward, knowing we've got a detailed plan of how they plan to fundraise, maintenance, and a tentative location and timeline. I would make a motion that the Public Works Committee favorably recommend or approve that they tentatively move forward with the design phase of this location. I believe, what's the garage? Is it Market Street Garage?
It is the Market Street Garage.
So of the Market Street Garage location for a mural, with the final design needing to be approved by the Public Works, Monument, and Monuments Committee before proceeding.
Okay, we have a motion. Tara, did you get all that?
You're muted.
Yes, thumbs up. She just gives thumbs up. Great. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second the motion so that we can discuss.
Okay, motion is made and seconded. Is there discussion?
So has any of this been put in writing? Because
Yeah. There is an application. She filled out the application. Did that not get sent along at some point?
I believe we all, I believe received
I
it.
was just combing through my emails and,
It was back in, I don't know when I forwarded it.
all right, well, let me say this. I don't see it in here, but it could have gotten lost in my old mail, and I can't look at my old mail while I'm on the computer. Is the application complete, Pat?
Yeah, it was pretty well written up as far as what, like, it kind of described what it might look like, you know, without actually having a drawing. Things that might be included, you know, and it had the $15,000 and
So I know we received a forward of everything back on Monday, the 10th. So I believe everybody was on it.
yeah, so I have that whole string of emails, but I don't see any documents attached.
Okay.
Yeah, I have the emails, but no documentation.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. You're right.
oh, my apologies. There was an application filled out attached that was complete. I thought I was forwarding the attachment as well, but evidently not.
All right, so if all the
Well-
information is on there, I don't have a problem giving a tentative approval for the location so that the project can move forward to the design phase. But it would only be a tentative approval for them to do the location. And is it spelled out, Pat, in their application, exactly what walls they will be painting?
She sent the picture of the wall, which is that curved wall like you described, facing that Attorney Anderson's office, I guess, on that.
Then it's gonna come down around the corner on street level towards Howard Brown Park?
Well, you're going up the hill.
Or you're gonna start up the hill and come around the corner?
No, Stacy, it actually, it starts about, starts almost at the top of the hill before the light, and it actually goes left. So it goes towards the old CBT Bank or whatever that round building is called now. But it doesn't, it goes towards their parking lot. It stays in the parking lot.
So it's set back from the actual
Gotcha.
roadway a little ways.
Right. And that's one of the reasons we selected that, because you're not in traffic. It's actually, there's an outside parking, like has 8 to 10 spots in front of it.
Okay,
Hold on one second. Hold on. There you go. This is the area because this is the ramp that actually takes you from the lower levels to the upper levels. This is the area that you're talking about here along this bare curved concrete part
Correct.
along the ground, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
so it's gonna start on that corner and work its way for a better down? So it's gonna start up high and it's gonna get smaller?
Correct. But I'm not going to say that we're going to use the whole wall. I think that's what we need the artist to work with us on, but it would
Yeah.
be, I'm not going to say we're going to do the whole wall, but it will be a good, at least from where it starts to bend, a good portion of that area.
And again, we're just talking about tentative regarding the location, right? That we'll see the design at a later phase for our consideration, right?
Correct. Yes, you will.
So this is really just about, and right now the entire committee and everyone in this meeting sees the concrete area where the mural final design would be applied if approved. This is the correct area.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Any more discussion or questions? Okay.
Question.
Oh, go right ahead. You have the floor.
No. That was my question exactly. I wanted to get an idea where she was talking about, because I had something
Absolutely.
else in mind. I had a different area in mind. So
Did I. So I think we maybe have made the same
assumption.
presumption. Yeah, right. Okay. All right. So other than that, is there any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, we'll vote by roll call. Yay or nay? Alderwoman Gould,
Yes.
Alderman Wilson,
Yes.
and the chair, Joe DeLucia, votes yes, unanimously carried. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Sheila, for your information and clarification for our consideration.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Looking forward to seeing what the design will be. Okay, so with that, we'll move on to other business. And Darrell shared with us a handwritten letter that he received from a business owner in Greenville. So Darrell, the floor is yours.
So he wrote the letter. He had been having conversations with several individuals along Central Avenue. So I will say just for the record, the business owner is Mr. Harrison Faison. He owns Platinum Cuts Barbershop on Central Avenue. I want to say, I should know the night. Last week, I believe on Thursday evening or Wednesday evening, there was a car accident that occurred where a truck hit a utility pole on Central Ave. Crews, of course, responded to it. Debris from the accident was left on the sidewalks in front of his business and on the street, of course. And, his concern was looking at some of the other areas, it's accident season kind of now, of debris from accidents being left on sidewalks and within the street, it being not only a safety concern, but his issue is the cleanup piece of it. So I told him I would share his letter that he sent to me with Public Works so that we could kind of know the process of what happens when an accident happens, who the cleanup is on, because I think that's his bigger concern. This is not the first time it's happened in not just his area, but other areas. Who is the person in charge of cleaning up the debris from an accident when it lands on other business owners' properties?
Well, it seems to me that there are two things here, because he also mentioned, winter snow plowing and so on and so forth. And, stuff falls off of vehicles and gets caught up, into the snow piles, and then the snow melts and all the just the stuff is left behind. And, that to me, that would be part of Public Works cleaning that up. But now I know my information's a little bit, well, what I'm about to say might be a little bit dated, 35 years ago on the police department, but, and Alderwoman Gould would probably have more timely information. But when I was on the PD, I will tell you, it was the officer on the scene's responsibility to make sure that the wrecker driver treated any spill that might be there and clean up any car parts that had come off of the vehicle as part of the accident, including broken glass, pieces of bumpers, so on and so forth. And with that, I'll turn it over to Stacy, and she can talk about the stuff that she sees at scenes that she goes to with the fire department.
So you're right, Joe. Although the fire department would be responsible for any spills these days.
Okay.
We've got oil, gas, transmission fluid, et cetera, et cetera. That's the fire department's job to mitigate and clean up. The car parts, broken glasses, bumpers, mirrors, et cetera. That is the police department's job with the tow truck operator or driver to get that swept up and cleaned up.
Okay.
And if, listen, there are times that some of them do a great job and some of them don't do a great job. But that is really the PD's responsibility, the officer on that scene, to say to that tow truck driver, you can't leave the road looking like this.
Gotcha.
And the fire department tries to help get it cleaned up or put it in a pile, but ultimately it is the tow truck operator's responsibility to clean up the parts that are left alongside the road. Now, that being said, I know of instances where, like Joe said, there's an accident, there's snow on the ground, maybe the guy doesn't see it, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, it's raining, he didn't see those parts, then they get swept to the side of the road, and then we end up, in a snow pile, the snow melts, and then we have a pile of stuff. I think then it becomes a public works job to go out and pick up the miscellaneous parts.
Okay. Well, and I will say, Pat's guys did an excellent job, since the bumper and all of those things were not picked up, because I don't know if the car was towed away. I know the accident happened, of course. I went out, it was 2 a.m. it happened. I don't know if the car was taken or the truck was taken away. But I know the things were left, and Pat's guys did come by and pick up some of the big parts. So I did thank them for that piece. But you're absolutely right as far as that piece. When he's talking about the snow removal, I think more so just knowing if you know where his location, so he is on the corner of Central Ave and I believe it's 3rd Street. And so when he's talking snow removal, I think from the conversation I had with him after he dropped this letter off, is more so a whole separate issue of when snow removal happens during the year, and the plow goes down the street, and if the cars aren't moved or whatnot, getting the buildup of all the snow from the road or the street onto his location on the corner. So the sight line issue and some of the other things of snow removal that happens in front of a place like his. So he has all sidewalk, no grass on the corner. And with it being a fire hydrant, I think near in front of his business. So keeping that clear, there's really no location for him to put the pile of snow on top of all the snow that's plowed with it coming around the corner. So that's really what he's talking about with that, which is a whole separate issue.
Well, it is, but it isn't, because, again, when it comes to snow removal, right? That's why it's automatic, there's an ordinance, it's automatic, no parking on the outside of the street during a snowstorm for this very reason, right? And that means that as unpleasant as it might be, right? Officers are supposed to go out there, try to find the owners, get the people to move the cars, asking nicely. But if car can't be moved and it's creating a hazard because of snow removal, then it needs to be towed. Obviously, like I said, that's not the first strategy, but if everything else fails, then that needs to happen. Now, once the streets are clear, individual property owners are responsible for clearing their sidewalks.
Correct.
Right. So,
and I guess
you can't stop that.
There isn't
right?
a lot of space to put snow out there because, like
Right.
George said, it's all sidewalks and road. There's not a grass strip or something in between to put
Right.
snow on.
Correct.
Yep.
And you know, his business, with him being on the corner, he's got that ADA compliant sidewalk piece that of course is clear, and then it's the fire hydrant. If I'm looking at it correctly, it's a fire hydrant, which then is of course dug out as well. So it's just a tight space. But you know, I told him I would bring it here. You know, I said some of these things are not necessarily just public works, but I figured, you know, also bring it here for us to have an attention to it. So
How
And
long has he owned this business?
he has been there probably, the barbershop has been there well over 10, 15 years.
And how long has he been there, though, the owner of this?
He has been in the barbershop probably for the last 10 years.
Okay, so this isn't, it's nothing new
new.
that he's had to clean his sidewalk or shovel out the hydrant. That's not a new issue.
Well, no, I don't think that part's is an issue. What I think is if for 3rd Street where he is, many of the businesses and houses that are on that street now have occupants. So for, I would say, the last 5 or 6 years, there really haven't been many occupants to stay into the winter months in those apartment or duplex houses. And then also across the street, which was the old Workman's Club, which is now a different business, it also has occupants. So the whole entire block of 3rd Street onto Central Ave now has individuals probably since the fall there. So there are more cars this winter and more traffic in that area than there has been in the past few years. So that, I think, is the other concern, is now we've got people living on the street. So that's another concern.
Well, so then maybe he should try to go to a meeting of the Greenville Neighborhood Revitalization, and it may be just a matter of getting that information to those landlords and those tenants that, you know, during a snowstorm, you can't park on the opposite side of the street, and they have to work together after a storm to get the sidewalk cleared, and it can't be, you know, I'm throwing it on your part of the sidewalk and then you're throwing it back on my part of the sidewalk. You're gonna have to work together to figure this out. But if he's been there 10 years, he's certainly had 10 winters to work this out. But if it's new, you know, I would be, you know, going to those landlords or those tenants and say, listen, we've got to work together on this and figure out a good solution so
Yep.
that we can get the sidewalk cleared. We can put this, you know, it into the street if we have to in a small area so that the plow can get it. And if the plow can come by and clean the street, we won't have a problem.
Correct. And he already knows that was one of the suggestions I gave him. They had a meeting a few weeks back. So I told him to reach out, and I gave him the information to do that as well. But of course, I told him I would honor his wishes of forwarding the letter to who he wanted it to go
yeah.
to.
Oh, absolutely. And so, you know, so we talked about a wide range, you know, right, of cause and effect here, right? You know, but also different topics, right? So, you know, if debris is being left behind by, you know, after accident scenes, you know, again, not to stay too far down in the weeds, but this particular accident that you cited, if that truck was not roadworthy, right, or not, you know, not safe for the road, or however you want to put it, then it should have been towed from the scene, right? You know, unless it could be driven from the scene, right, legally, right, and safely, then it should have been towed from the scene, right? You know, folks don't have the, truck hits a pole and is totaled. You don't have the right to say, well, I'll just leave it here and I'll come get it, you know, when I get a chance. No, it doesn't work like that, right? You know, because then you can say to the wrecker operator, okay, you got to take that stuff with you, all right? You know, the rest, you know, the other issues that we're talking about, I mean, you know, with regard to the parking and so on, again, you know, that's dealing with it storm by storm, right? And it's making, you know, people being able to make those phone calls. I would recommend, following what Stacy just said, is that, you know, as a public outreach effort, you know, meeting, if you were to go to those committee meetings and say, okay, so, you know, if you're having this issue, here's who you need to talk to, you know, and, you know, here's the ways that you can resolve it, right? And again, that building that sense of community, because it seems like they're becoming a victim of their success in that the apartments are filling up. There's more tenants, which means there's more cars, right? When, you know, there's fewer places to put snow and things like that, which are not great problems to have, but they're good problems to have, because that says that the neighborhood's making its way back.
Right.
And those are good things. So the landlords and the tenants and the business owners just need the strategies, right? And the mechanisms in terms of who to call when these things pop up. And then they don't have to wait for a monthly meeting of this committee to be able to vent their frustrations, because they can avoid the frustrations by having actionable mechanisms.
Correct.
You know, is there, so one of the things, and I don't want to belabor this point, but I just wanted to ask you, in your conversations with this gentleman, you know, what specifically was he asking us to do?
Well, I think for him, I think you actually gave the answer, but was who was responsible for cleaning it up. You know, I think that was his big question of who is responsible for cleaning up the debris. The snow removal piece, I think he already knew, but he had wrote the letter, and I just wasn't going back and whiting out things, just was going to submit the letter as is. He already knew that piece, but I think the bigger question was who is responsible for debris left behind when accidents occur.
Okay, all right.
And there was a tow truck. There was a tow truck that took away and didn't clean up well enough. And then we were called out after that. The police called us and asked us to clean it up after the tow truck left pieces there.
Right. And again, you know, this is not the first go-to, but, you know, I can remember where certain tow truck companies were not really good about cleaning up the scene, and they got a call from the deputy chief who said, listen, if you want to stay on the list, you need to do a better job of cleaning up, right? Not to threaten, but just to say, you know, to be clear about the expectations, you know, and, you know, and that can happen as well. Again, it's all about the relationships and the conversations, right? But at the same time, you know, being clear about the expectations. And then, of course, with the community policing unit, you know, I mean, because I know that some people might be hesitant to say, well, I'm going to call down the station and I'm going to get the lieutenant on the scene. And of course, you don't know how busy patrol is that night and what's going on. But you got a community policing unit, and community policing works, you know, it has a presence in that neighborhood, right? You know, maybe that's another avenue for those residents and landlords and business owners to talk to community policing unit and say, hey, can you get a note to the patrol to be a little bit more, I don't want to say aggressive, but a little bit more on it about, you know, making sure these guys clean up after these accidents and so on. And, you know, that's part of the community policing deal, right?
And I'd have told them that, you know, I think the other part to it, and the reason I wanted to bring this letter forward, is I made the point to him that Public Works is already busy, you know, and to add an additional thing on, you know, was wonderful that they went out and cleaned up, but to put something on a new precedence on them to clean up after every accident is adding something or demand that it is unrealistic when it comes to. There could be several accidents going on in a day or a night. But it's that point of, we already have someone in place who is supposed to be cleaning up after the accident. So
right,
putting that out there.
I would just say that, you know, I never want to send the message that, our service delivery is too busy to, you know, to deal with an issue. Right. But you know, I would say virtually all of these problems have been experienced elsewhere. And so that means that somebody's had to think about what the solution is. And it's just a matter of acting on whatever those mechanisms are. Because again, you don't want to send the message to the community. It's like, oh, well, sorry, can't help you, right? You know, that's not what we're in this business for, right? But you got to provide them a path to say, okay, I'm going to provide you with access to the resources to address the things that you're concerned about, right? Now, if we're talking about a change in policy that would increase the cost to the city, well, now that becomes an expenditure issue. That's a different conversation, right? So.
Yeah, and I'm pretty
Okay.
sure that if we had a tow truck company X was continually doing a poor job cleaning up after an accident to the point where we had to call Public Works, then tow truck company X is going to get a phone call, or they're just going to come off the list and their phone's not going to ring anymore. Because I know the rules to be a state tow truck operator. The Connecticut State Police have a lot of rules. You don't, with how much time they're going to give you to get there is the number one thing. If you can't be there within a certain amount of time from the time you're called, you are no longer a tow truck operator for the state of Connecticut for an accident on one of our, on the turnpike or any state road. And you just come off the list. And so these guys have to be a little bit more
Diligent.
Yeah, that's a good word. A little bit more diligent with what they're cleaning up. And and I'm not saying, I'm not trying to throw the police department under the bus, but that cop on the corner at that accident's got to say to the guy, you need to clean that up.
Yeah.
You've got to pick up that glass. You got to take that bumper, that mirror, that whatever, and take it with you. That's your job. That's what you get paid for.
Yep.
Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, if the folks in the neighborhood, that they see that, that's not happening, we need to be able to have positive conversations where the public is comfortable and the officer is approachable, which most, if not all of them are, is just say, hey, maybe you didn't notice, but there's a whole bunch of car parts that fell off that truck when they were putting it on the record. And it's like, can you get the guy to just grab that stuff before he takes off? And, again, it's just being able to have a dialogue, and not everything has to be confrontation, right? Okay, well, that was a good conversation. And I think also an opportunity too, to build some relationships in that neighborhood, because it's booming over there.
Oh yeah.
If I could just, I don't want to belabor this, but if I can just, one thing that kind of rubbed me the wrong way though, is when he said the city doesn't care about, everything, Greenville, and everything is run down. And we've just repaved pretty much every street over there in the last few years. So I think we have been paying pretty good attention to Greenville, I would say.
I agree with you, and I've had those conversations. I mean, he's no different than any other who writes their comments or opinions of what they have to say. And I think if you look at a lot of what's been done in Greenville, not even just the roads, but even some of these
the playscape,
the playscape, the paintings you're doing on some of the bump outs, a lot's being done in Greenville, and it's just the beginning of a lot of things. I just think writing his opinion, but I think we continue, as Joe has said, having the dialogue of all the good things that are going on, and it's a chance for them to see and network to see all of the other good things that are being done over there. So I don't pay attention to all the weeds in the letter. I just continue to promote the good things that we're doing and have a dialogue. So that's my bigger piece with it.
Absolutely. Okay. Anything else under other business?
So I'm just going to bring it up. It's been and I don't know if you've gotten several calls, Pat, but we are having the issue again of Willimantic waste. We've had it probably 3 times in the last 5 weeks where they have missed picking up trash on a good portion of Greenville and some of the other areas on this side of town. And it's taken them more than a day to come back to get the trash. And the only concern that I have is now that it is getting warm out, you know, the smell of trash, and with some homes having the smaller cans, them not having something to put their trash from their apartments and houses in is going to become an issue. And I know we had that issue last summer when, you know, missing certain days to pick up trash, you know, they then don't want to pick up the bag that's on the side of the trash can because it's full. So I know that has been a concern. We've had residents call multiple times, and it's taken them more than a day to come out and get the trash. So they've supposed to, the assigned day, of course, to pick up trash is on a Monday. The trash hasn't been picked up until Wednesday morning. And I know most of the cans are out because I take a nice scenic route to work in the morning. But there have been, over the last probably 5 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks, that trash is not being picked up on time.
In Greenville in general.
Greenville in general, I know that for a fact.
All right, well, I'll talk to them.
All right, and I know I've had several of them call Willimantic Waste directly, but I know that they're a provider for the city as far as doing the trash collection. So I figure I'd bring it up to you just in case it becomes an issue other places in the city.
Yeah, people generally, a lot of people do call our office when their trash doesn't get picked up. And then we call Willimantic Waste and tell them, hey, you missed this, you know, but I'll talk to them specifically about, you know, making sure they got enough resources out there to do it on the day it's supposed to be done.
All right. That is all I have.
Okay, anything else under other business? I'll take that as a no. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Right, and
Second.
seconded. Okay, all those in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, we are adjourned. It is 5:18 p.m. Thank you all very much for your time and for everything that you do. Have a great week, and I'll see you soon.
All right.
Thank you.